Welcome back. Well, as you know, South Africa tends to experience an increase in road accidents, particularly as a result of drinking and driving. In fact, according to statistics relayed by the Minister of Transport, Tembisa Chikunga, South Africa experienced a 2.3% decline in road carnage during the festive season as a result of various operations. Now, despite these efforts, the country continues to have a drunk driving problem, and of course our road deaths are still inordinately high. Let's bring in Mokebe Thulo. She is the CEO of aware.org to unpack this challenge with us. Mokebe, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for coming on. Drinking and driving in South Africa, what does the picture look like still?
Good afternoon, Michelle, and thank you so much for having us on your show. Good afternoon to your viewers. Drinking and driving in South Africa, very much still a problem. As you've just stated, what the picture looks like is that we are seeing slight improvements as we move through the years. There are ebbs and there are flows. In the past festive season, we saw a decline, as you said, in the majority of our regions, but it's still not where we want that number to be. In an ideal world, we'd want that number to be sitting at 0 because every life lost or every life impacted is one life too many. And that's what we work towards, and not just during Christmas, not just during Easter, but throughout the year. And we continue our year in, year out campaigns, even though much of the attention is paid on Easter and Christmas time.
Yeah.
It's about 5.5% of road fatalities or incidences on the road are as a result of alcohol or have anything to do with alcohol consumption. And that is the picture that we are trying to change.
Yeah, I want to get to the issue of the campaigns that we see the Transport Department and various other government entities run, as you say, particularly in the build-up to Easter and the festive season. But, you know, let's talk a bit more about how many people are killed on South Africa's roads every year. And the thing about this decline that the Transport Minister has spoken about, the 2.3% decline in road carnage during last year's festive season, is that even with the 2.3% decline, the number itself is so incredibly high that it's an inordinate number of people dying on the road.
Yes. I cannot disagree with you for a second on that statement. The reality of it is that South Africans have what I would say is an unhealthy relationship with the rules of the road, for starters. As I said, it is only a small, one would say, percentage that is related to, for example, alcohol-related incidences. There are other factors such as roadworthiness of cars, the infrastructure that is involved, driver fatigue, and the list goes on.
Yes,
so
speed
there are a
is
number
another
of
one.
behaviors. Speed is a huge one.
Yeah.
There are a number of behaviors that are preventable, absolutely 100% preventable, and within the hands of those drivers that make those decisions and get behind the wheel and continue to do so. So, yeah, that is where we sit.
I mean, we've got the photograph of the vehicle that was involved in yesterday's crash. As I said in my introduction, a Sekhukhune United soccer player has now handed himself over to police after this fatal crash, which led to the death of a 9-year-old child yesterday morning at 7:30. According to reports, there were a number of bottles of alcohol. There was a powder suspected to be cocaine, and a number of edibles were also found in the soccer player's vehicle. The mother and another child, a 13-year-old, being transported to Tembisa hospital, and they are in a critical condition. Mokebe, I don't know if you've seen the video of this accident, which has been doing the rounds on social media, but it's as if, you know, the victims in this crash did not stand a chance, just with the sheer speed and the angle at which the oncoming vehicle crashed into them.
Yeah, I would say the sheer velocity, they didn't stand a chance. I have not seen the video, but I have absolutely followed the story, and I've read the testimony of the security guard that opted not to be named. And the reality of this is that it is one story. It is one story of a family whose lives have been changed forever, and that will never be unchanged. Even the footballer in question, that is allegedly involved in this incident, his life will never be the same again. And what we always say is that the insight that we use is that South Africans have this mentality that they will not be caught. It will not be me. I will not be caught. It will be someone else. And that is where behavioral change comes in. And behavioral change is not an overnight, process that you can bring into being. It comes at very many angles that we have to make these interventions at. And I think for me, even though Aware does so many Don't Drink and Drive is just one of them. It is probably the most preventable one. If drivers could change their attitudes and therefore their behavior, we could have safe roads for all. And it involves all of society. It is all our responsibility and affects all of us because effectively we are all road users one way or another.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the issue of festive season and Easter campaigns insofar as road safety is concerned. I think I've been tracking the story of these campaigns for almost 20 years as a journalist, and I swear the press releases and the wording has stayed consistent over those almost 20 years. We run these campaigns year after year. We make these appeals year after year, season after season. It doesn't seem to be changing attitudes.
It doesn't, or at least not enough. Yeah, it doesn't. That's the reality. And that's why we are coming in and we are trying to be innovative. We are trying to meet our audiences where they are, speak the language that they speak, and try to understand the insights that drive them in order for us to be able to change this behavior. Because we've seen it again and again. You could almost just cut, paste, erase the actual numbers that are the bottom line, and you might have the same story. And the only way for us to be able to change this is to change the way in which we communicate this message. I do not think that the majority of the people, even the ones that cause these awful accidents, incidences on the road, are bad people. They are ordinary South Africans that are taking part in bad behavior because that is the culture that they have been brought up in. This is the norm. This is what we see. And this is why we have to attack this program for all ends. It has to be around awareness. It has to be around education. It has to be around rehabilitation. So every way in which we can attack this problem, we must do so. And it cannot, as I said, be just at 3 times of the year where we say, okay, now we're tracking numbers. It doesn't work that way. And that's why our interventions have to be ongoing. And the partnerships that working with the likes of JMPD, us working with the likes of the RTMC are so important to us because it gives us that whole of society power and leverage to do more. I mean, the RTMC, for example, are launching a campaign that is all about having no bad or negative incident on the road every day. That is what we want because we know that the numbers go up from Thursday to Sunday every week, no matter what time of the year it is. And so we need to find ways to understand the road user, to understand how to get to them before it is that they make the bad decision to get behind the car. We need to start using innovation. We need to start using technology. For example, with the drunk goggles simulator that we've created and put on our website, where people can go on our website and have the experience of what it's like to drive under the influence, but in the safety of your own home. You can see how it affects your thinking, your mobility, etc. You can have that first-hand experience, so to speak. Because the reality, and this is another insight that we see, is that by the time you are making the decision to get into your car or not, and you are intoxicated, it's too late. It has to be ingrained in you that drinking and driving do not mix. I need to make a plan beforehand. I either have to come with a designated driver. I have to have a strategy that I'm not drinking that evening. I have to opt for 0% drinks. I have to go for e-hailing services. There are so many options that are available. And I think a lot of it is understanding and humanizing what this is. And unfortunately, this terrible incident that has just happened puts names and faces to human beings, because it seems that when people hear numbers, it does not penetrate their humanness. It's just another stat, it's just another number. But when we hear about a 9-year-old young girl losing her life so unnecessarily, it starts to resound. It starts to make sense. And those are the stories we have to tell.
Yeah.
And when we learn and know better, we need to pass this message on to our family members, to our friends, etc., etc.
Yeah. 9-year-old girl losing her life at 7:30 in the morning while on her way to school. It's just unthinkable. I mean, we see these crashes, we see the results of these crashes all the time. We see newspaper articles, we see what the vehicle looks like after a fatal crash. None of this, though, is a deterrent. Why is that, Mokebe?
I think that South Africans have, it's that attitude of it won't happen to me. It's that attitude of I will slip through the cracks. It's that attitude of I will not get caught. And that's why things like roadblocks are so important, and law enforcement and visibility thereof. And having people get caught, having people go to court, and having people behind bars for crimes such as this, so that there are first-hand stories of, oh, my cousin did this and this is what happened to my cousin. It's about making it real and bringing it home, making it real. I think we have almost got these blinders on, that we don't see it as real. It's almost like all of these warnings that are invisible to us because we've chosen it to be so, or we choose to know no better.
And your organization, Mokebe, is talking about introducing more efficient alcohol testing in collaboration with Metro Police departments. Of course, this is important because there's that new ARTO system, right? Motorists are found to have an alcohol level of 0.05 grams per 100 mils or more are required to appear in court, and they'll have 6 points deducted from their license. When you've accumulated 15 points, you'll have your license suspended for a period of 3 months. So what do we need to do now to get this more efficient alcohol testing up and running?
So we are already doing it. We piloted in 2023, and what we're doing is trying to make the life of the Metro Police a lot easier. We're trying to make efficiencies efficient. We're trying to make their jobs matter. So I'm not standing there drawing blood and sending it to some lab where the blood is never going to see the light of day because the blood gets thrown out and too much time has elapsed. We've introduced a technology called EBAT machines, which are very similar to breathalyzer machines, but they are in fact admissible in court. So instead of having to draw blood from a suspect, they can just blow into the EBAT machines. It's admissible in court. We've provided data capturers on site that can actually capture the data so that the file doesn't disappear somewhere along the way in between, so that we can actually have prosecutions. Until we start seeing prosecutions en masse and people facing consequences, it's very difficult for people to actually think, this might be me taking a risk. And I think that's what I'm talking about when I say about we have to arrest this problem at all ends. And then we've got our partnership with Necro, where if a driver has, for example, been caught for drinking and driving, but they have to meet a certain criteria. So, for example, they have to be a first-time offender. It has to be a certain limit, etc., etc. And it has to be visible to the court. They have to prove to the court that they can be rehabilitated. They go through a program called Shifting Gears, where they start to understand the consequences of their actions. And we get testimonial videos from many of these benefactors, who are mainly men, for many reasons in this country. And a lot of them tell us that they didn't understand, the possible consequences of their actions. And since having gone through the program, they now pass on the word. They now do community talks, for example, free of charge, out of their own pocket, out of the goodness of their heart, because it's the right thing to do. They now understand the gravity and the implications, or the potential implications of this problem.
Yeah, and
so we have to hit it at all ends.
It's a shame, Mokebe, that something needs to happen, right, before we understand the gravity of the situation. But let me thank you for your time this afternoon. The Aware.org CEO, Mokebe Thulo, joining us as we continue to track the issue of drunk driving in South Africa.